Good morning, everybody. We're live on a Monday morning. Here's me, here's Bulelo. We'll be joined by Leigh-Ann in a moment. You can find out where in her garden she passed out over the weekend. We used to have these dogs, right? They were real mutts. Friends of ours gave us 2 puppies. This is like when we were kids. My brother and I were like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10. And we had these 2 dogs. They were as tough as nails. They were real farm dogs. There's Leigh-Ann Mole. And I'll never forget, in the middle of winter, my mother she'd wake up early in the morning to wake us for school. And my mom would look for the 2 dogs. And they'd been lying out on the lawn, right? In the middle of winter. These dogs are tough as nails. The proper outside, the way dogs are meant to be, not these little preshy things that lie on the bed with you and, get special food that costs $500 a bag or anything.
Allergic to tap water.
Exactly. These dogs, they'd be lying on the lawn and there'd be frost all around them, and they'd get up and there'd be a patch where they'd been lying. There wasn't frost because the frost was on them.
Mm-hmm.
Those are tough dogs. They lasted a long time and they were strong. Jesus, they could run. Wow. Those were tough animals. They were really tough. I like that. I think the same is true for humans. All the people who've been, oh my God, Corona, we're all going to die. It's terrible. Obviously, again, I have to caveat this because God knows there isn't going to be someone who's cutting the show to pieces and then finding a piece where I'm, sounding like I don't believe in coronavirus or I'm an anti-vaxxer, God forbid. And then they pass that clip around and then suddenly, some idiot organization like Media Monitors Africa coming after us. So I always have to say, of course, if you've lost someone and if you've got it and you've been really badly, badly sick, and lots of people have, then I'm not talking about you. But there are those hypochondriacs in society. And I always think of those dogs that used to lie out on the lawn in the middle of winter with frost all around them. And they woke up in the morning, tough as nails, could do anything. Ran down to the river at full speed, could catch rabbits. They could actually catch, how fast one of those scrub hares is? These things could catch those. Unbelievable.
So we had it really depended on if they were bred dogs. It depended on the breed as well, obviously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had a thoroughbred long-haired German Shepherd. Right. And he would do exactly that. He would lie on the grass until the frost formed on his back, and he was perfectly happy.
No.
And then we had a Jack Russell who would lie on top of his back for warmth, And then we also had a particularly fussy Staffordshire Terrier who didn't like his bum to touch the cold cement, so he would sit on a child's lawn chair. So it really depends, But yeah, the Brucks are the hardy ones, that's for sure. They've got all the herd immunity they need.
And I'm telling you, it's the same for humans. Like, the tougher we are, if you've grown up and your grandparents, your great grandparents, and your great grandparents are all like tough people. They had to fight for a living. They had to survive, eke out an existence. Those people produce good, solid survival genes, and in evolutionary terms, that can't be beaten, right?
There's a flaw, though, in some, even in good stock. I was watching a video last night of a woman who lives somewhere in the north of England, and she's complaining about the heat, and she says, "I can't handle this heat in my house." She's like, "I'm of northern stock. I'm a woman who was bred to pull potatoes out of the earth, to skin boars, to I just wasn't made for this heat."
No. I don't know how you feel about this, Bulelo, but like, I know for a fact that whichever ancestors in each line it was that decided, fuck this, we're coming to Africa, those people I'm going to build a monument to one day. I'm going to say those made the right decisions. I would loathe to be in Europe. In South Africa, we have 2-3 months of really bad winter. It's maybe June, July, August that are really, really insufferably cold. But there is no reason you should have to be through put through that misery. And you've been in Scandinavia a couple of times. I mean, I've never even been there. Explain how weird it is that you have a tiny window of sun in the middle of winter of what, 2-3 hours?
3 hours. So Finland 3 hours, and I know it varies throughout the Scandinavian nations. So and even then it's bloody freezing, by the way.
Oh.
Like unbearably cold for those 2 hours. We're talking when it gets to wind chill, it's double figure minuses, right? So like centigrade. You are talking freezing cold and just unbearable, but they're just out there being see-through white, most of them, just looking like white walkers, and throwing old Sven and whoever else it is, and Ulrika up in the air, and just living their best lives.
No,
but I tell you what they do is, because I mean our history shapes us, right? So a lot of people wonder why Scandinavia, on a very serious note, is so innovative, because they've had to be. There's a reason why they were ahead in terms of post-agricultural revolution. Everything kind of that the West did came from there, because you've got to be able to store things. You've got to be able to farm properly and have technology, because you better be able to get into the ground through the snow. So they were really innovative in their history. But they used to have sauna competitions. I don't know if you've ever heard about this.
Mm.
So I remember as a child going to sauna competitions a lot, and it's like serious business. Hey, it sounds stupid to us, but like the guy in the village or the lady in the village who is the sauna champ is like a real person to this day. So I remember spending good time there, having a great time, being the only melanin guy out there, just running around.
Is the game that you meant to stay in there the longest?
Yeah. No, it's like serious business. And then they've obviously carved out sort of pools as well, where it's just like, you don't even want to know what the temperature is. And people are jumping in and out of there, eating food. It's a whole festival.
So
winter's a nightmare.
And Finland is famous for saunas, right? So you sit in the sauna for however long you can, as long as you can bear it. And then you jump into an ice pool. And then you jump out of the ice pool back into the sauna.
Exactly.
Now, that kind of thing will make you tough, but not the kind of tough I want to be. Sorry.
No, where my kind of limitations of tough are at the moment, I've realized. I tested my thresholds on Friday. I went for the vaccination, the first one.
Oh, did you get it?
Yeah.
You feel better about it?
Yeah,
you feel pleased, relieved that you've got the first shot?
Purely from standing in a queue point of view and the sore arm afterwards, yeah, I'm quite relieved. But I mean, not to put anyone off of having the vaccine, of course, but they do warn you of arm pain, and it's a real thing, people.
Okay. That's the limit of your toughness right now, is the arm pain from the vaccine.
So my brother and I went together, and we went on the Friday morning. On the Friday night, he was complaining like a bitch about the pain on his arm. I feel like I've been punched. I'm like, I felt worse pain. And then I didn't say much once it developed, because you can't even lie on your arm. It's so sore. But it subsides after 2 to 3 days.
This is actually, I'm glad we got here early in the show, because we can get rid of it quickly. But the number of people I've had to have this vaccination conversation with recently, because it seems to, since people our age and younger are now getting it, because you can do walk-ins in some places.
All over. They're not supposed to turn you away.
So, I mean, everybody's talking about this now. And the amount of just nonsense conversation you have to have with some people, like, I don't care if you're for it or against it. I really don't care. It's none of my business. I'm not particularly motivated either way. As I've said before, I'm not against the vaccine in any which way. If I have to get it to travel, I'll get it. But I think I've already had coronavirus, so I've already got my immunity, so I don't need to go and get a shot and stand in a queue with a bunch of other people. And frankly, I don't queue, even if you were giving away bars of gold and there was a queue. I don't think that's...
So it depends where you go, but if you go to somewhere like Barra, the whole process takes 5 minutes, and then 15 minutes of recovery. So it's very quick.
All right.
What about I mean, people are living their best lives out here. A friend of mine last week, like, hey, you want to come over, have some coffee? He goes, sends me photos. The guy's in Ibiza living his best life right now. I'm like, hey, man, this guy. I thought we were on the red list.
Yeah.
He obviously got his vaccination as he landed or something like that, right?
No,
The
he
dude.
he literally got his vaccine last week. I think also a paramedic, Michael Flex vibe, something,
Yeah, right.
something. Yeah. Don't you
Well,
want to
good
travel?
for them. I mean, listen, I want to travel, so I'll do it, but I'm not in a hurry. I'm not looking at planning any travel for the moment anyway.
Oh.
Funniest thing, during all those all the looting and the riots and the craziness of last week, somebody sent me this. I just thought it was so funny, right? So apparently, Eusebius McKaiser, who, by the way, is now doing a podcast. This is the same guy who said podcasts are really stupid and only people who do podcasts are these alt-right bros. Now he's got his own podcast. This fucking loser. So he was at the Benmore shopping center the other day. So look at this. He put this up, when all the riots and everything were happening. He's like, I just had to run like hell. Huge commotion at Benmore shopping center. Staff and customers scatter. Shops close. And security try to lock entrances into the mall with the sounds of projectiles being thrown. Some shouting. The looters are coming. Is the ANC run state capable? So then someone sent me this voice note of him. You want to hear it? This is him.
Mm-hmm.
He sent this to some friends.
Guys, there's trouble at Benmore Shopping Centre. Please spread the word. I had to leave my car there and I'm running home. There's big trouble in Benmore Centre. Please tell everybody. Thank you.
No,
It sounds a bit different. It sounds a bit different to the last time I heard him.
a little more what they call yentery. He's got the yenters there.
Anyway, so I thought that was pretty funny. Hey, we've got two things on this morning that I think you're going to enjoy. The first of these is Dr. Hanan, who's back with It's Going to Be Okay. And we've got a really interesting episode precisely about this kind of thing and the anxiety that a lot of people are feeling because of last week and what's been happening and how many people it's made uncomfortable. I mean, I'm hearing, again, more stories of people who were really rattled by what happened because they've been living in a world where they believed they were, in inverted commas, safe. And that word has come up a lot. So if I may just go into a 2 to 3 minute diatribe here of what I think of safe. The world is not safe. I don't know where anybody got into their heads the idea that you'd wake up in the morning and you would spend every day of your life until you died being, in inverted commas, safe. Safe from coronavirus, safe from angry people, safe from emotional and economic decline and difficulty. I don't know where everybody got this idea. Clearly, the people who believe in safe, in inverted commas, are people who've never picked up a history book. It makes me, it boggles my mind that there are people who are so absolutely ignorant of the history of humanity that they think that safe is a form of existence that's available to us, like on the shopping mall shelf. You can go in, you can pull it off the shelf and go, okay, well, I bought that. Now I'm safe.
Yeah.
For the
It is
longest-
something that we strive. It's something that we always strive for, though, as a human race.
Particularly the purpose of men, of real men in society, and I know I'm going to get shit from people who have a different definition of masculinity and usefulness in society to the definition I'll use. But the purpose, the whole reason men exist is to protect the women and children as much as possible, to try and create as much safety for those women and children as they can possibly do. That's the best thing you can do as a man, right? That is the most valuable contribution you can make as a man, is to give protection to the women and children. Now, having said that, and having said rude things about people who've never read a history book, let me be very, very clear about what history does tell us about safety, is that safety is something we can strive for. And in very many civilized societies these days, it is available more than it's ever been, right? And that's why I've always said, I've been the world's biggest optimist about where we are in the story of humanity right now, because there is more safety available to you than at any other stage. You are living better than any of your ancestors, no matter how well-to-do they might have been. If you're descended directly from King Louis XIV, who lived in the Palace of Versailles in opulence and luxury in the 1600s, you are not in any way to complain that you're worse off than him.
Because you've got clean underwear to start with.
Clean
Fresh
underwear
daily.
running water, you've got electricity. You don't have to do anything post 6 o'clock at night by candlelight. You have the ability to wash, and
And poo in a toilet.
Exactly. You have flushing lavatories. You don't have to use a bedpan. So stop, please, thinking that anything about today is worse. And oh my God, whatever happened. And I'm by no means again making the experiences of people last week, making a mockery of them, because I understand that there are a lot of people who are very traumatized by this. But please go and pick up any history book you choose. Your ancestors, but 3 or 4 generations ago, had no say as to where they were deployed in war by whichever chief, king, warlord, pope, or whoever else was there to tell them what to do. You don't have to worry about that now. So already there are certain things that are not on the table that were just they were not even negotiable for your ancestors. Okay, and the fact that they had to go out, chop wood, burn it, and as you said about that woman in the north of England, pull potatoes out of the ground, hunt an animal. This is what our ancestors had to do just to survive every day. If they survived, that was better than safety. Because, yes, a wild animal could come and tear one of your children out of the arms of your wife and eat it for dinner. But there was no illusion in those people's minds that they were going to be safe. You could barricade the cave door. You could build some kind of shelter. And just when you thought you'd managed to get yourself safe from the animals, another tribe would come along and murder you just because you were in their way. There's no such thing as safety. So let's all just stop expecting some halo, some blanket of security to be thrown over us. It doesn't work that way. Coronavirus is what nature does. Even if in this case, the Chinese have done their bit to help engineer it in a negative direction. Mobs of people have always behaved badly and threatened the security of good, law-abiding citizens. This is how the world works. What kind of lack of appreciation and basically, what sort of lack of gratitude did you grow up with that you thought you deserved to live in perfect harmony and security with everything around you? And that's all I have to say about it, because it's been bothering me all weekend. I've heard lots of really harrowing stories, and trust me, I'm absolutely convinced that those people are going to be rattled for a very long time. It'll be something that they'll think about for the rest of their lives. But please don't think for a minute that because you've gone through it, you're the first human being to go through it, or that what you've gone through is worse than what your ancestors had to go through on a daily basis. Makes you sound extremely ungrateful. Anyway.
I'm glad to hear what you've said. And I think a lot of it obviously makes absolute sense, and it's factual. It's just difficult to express an opinion in these times without facing backlash, which I think is another threat to our safety on its own. Our safety in being able to express our opinion.
Well, these days that is a very it's a very dangerous place to be. Probably one of the most dangerous things you can do right now is to express yourself honestly, because people don't like it. They want you to conform and behave.
And what it's eroding is something that keeps societies together, which is objective truth. But let's not open that door.
No, right. There's very little of that going on.
And but it's very dangerous. I mean, I got people who don't even know how to add 1 and 1 and telling me how chemical bonds work, and telling me how the vaccine works. I'm like, I'm a moron. I'm a moron with an undergrad, and I speak to people with PhDs across the scientific spectrum, and I must listen to you who did a BA Arts, and you work in a marketing department about vaccines. I'm going to punch you in the face if you don't get out of my face immediately, is what I'm thinking. But I don't punch them in the face.
Yeah, but you have to behave yourself. Yeah. Well, speaking of all of this, I don't know if you saw this tweet over the weekend. This is hilarious. I just hope this week, that's last week obviously, doesn't inspire South African singers to get together and sing a "We Are the World" type of song. Please, we're already going through too much. I love that.
It's already happening, man.
I know. But I
That's
saw lots
awesome.
of people tweeting that and going, yes, please. You know, Leigh-Ann, Bulelo's probably too young to remember this, but when we were kids, they would always play We Are the World when terrible things were happening. You know, like there'd be a landslide in Bangladesh that would wipe out like 6 villages, and there'd be people buried under rubble, and then you'd see them playing We Are the World, and you think, oh no. Even as a child, I went, oh God, it's that fucking song. It means terrible things are happening. There'd be a volcano in Sicily that, Mount Etna explodes, and huge chunks of molten lava go up into the air and land on some poor old lady in a wheelchair, and then they'll play We Are the World, Michael.
And there's bound to be a telethon that follows, a live telethon.
Do you remember telethons? So then, they've got like Diana Ross and Elton John and Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie and all of those 80s stars who sang in We Are the World. Even Bob Dylan is in the fucking song. And I thought, there's something so disgustingly ironic about Michael Jackson singing "We Are the Children." Meanwhile, he's molesting them left, right, and center. And the 80s, that was what it was. The smoke and mirrors. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and yes, we really did get away with a lot without people even realizing it. Nothing was really put under the spotlight, we just kind of got on with things, and if it meant lighting a packet of poo and putting it on your neighbor's doorstep, that stuff didn't end up in the newspapers.
Yeah, this is what people did for fun.
That's where Gal Gadot didn't get away with it. She thought she'd get all of her friends more money probably than all humans in history together. Remember at the beginning of lockdown, I think in her mind, she thought, "Oh, they're going to name a kibbutz after me, in Israel, because I'm a daughter of the soil. Once I do this."
Gal Gadot, she sang, what did they sing? Imagine, right?
Imagine, yeah. She got everyone to sing Imagine, remember? And they did like a montage. I'm pretty sure she thought a kibbutz was going to be named after her, and they were going to replace Jesus in the Bible with Gal. That's what she thought was going to happen. She's Israeli. It's going to happen. I've united everyone.
I love Gal Gadot, so she's just very attractive. I like that.
Hey Gareth, I met her, and I met her in Cape Town. Yeah. I don't want to bore you with the details, but anyway, we had like a nice conversation. I didn't know who she was, by the way, until a friend of mine told me after the conversation. But anyway, and then she went to the We Are the World thing. Like, she seemed pretty smart, and then I was just like, oh man, never meet your heroes.
She was trying to make her difference with her truth. The moment people start talking about their truth, or they start saying, well, I but I'm doing the work. I'm always like, oh God, here we go. This is bullshit right from the
I do my part.
Yeah, it's interesting that you've said this. Have you had anybody in your...
I used to have terrible attitudes towards the trans community, but now I'm doing the work. I'm like, what is the work? Work should involve some kind of heavy lifting in some way, shape, or form. There needs to be enormous amounts of expenditure of physical and mental energy in order for you to complain that it is work. I don't see any work happening when you adjust your attitude to other human beings, or you learn something new and change your mind about a certain set of facts. That's not work. It's just curiosity. That's just change. And that doesn't require a huge amount of effort on your part. Don't claim to be doing any work, please.
Yeah, no, it's madness. I just want to quickly, before we move on, can people stop asking why celebrities aren't talking about this situation? It's like, who cares what Trevor Noah has to say about an absolute disaster for people in KZN? Am I wrong here? I don't know if you've had any people, like I saw somebody's Facebook status, and I thought, does this person think, man? Why do I want to hear from Trevor Noah when people are suffering? Well, what are we doing?
Well, look, first of all, let me just say on this show, hopefully part of the reason that we all get together every morning is because we all want to hear each other's points of view, and that's great. And that's why I love to read the comments every morning, because there's always someone who's got something interesting to say that I hadn't thought about. And our guests are the same, right? That's why we interview interesting people. Hopefully they bring a point of view that you haven't thought of. But I'm so with you, Mbulelo. It doesn't bother me that Trevor Noah hasn't made any public statement about this. Like, who's sitting there waiting for that? Who's lying in bed at night going, oh my God, I don't know if I can sleep until I know whether Trevor Noah is going to make a comment about KZN this week. Who's that person? I want to
Yeah.
meet them.
No,
I want to know whose life is dependent on the point of view of Mbulelo or Gareth or Trevor Noah or Leigh-Ann or anyone else. You really, then you've got some problems. You need, why not be happy with your own opinion on these things or formulate your own opinion on these things? No, Trevor Noah is doing a comedy show. The fact that he should ever be taken seriously is a huge stretch.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
very good at what he does as a comedian and a late night talk show host. If you are looking to him to be your political compass, got problems. It's like Mbulelo was saying just now about all these people who have no scientific qualification, but they'll tell you all about the vaccine all weekend long. You've got problems. Learn to find your information from sources that are valuable and useful to you. Otherwise, you're looking in the wrong places. You're digging for gold where there's mud.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Listen, protect your mental health, especially in things that are empirically true. Now, I think I've told you this before. If you don't have an undergrad in science, I ask you a few questions and we move on. Stop. I don't want to talk to you. You're not. I've done the work, Gareth. I've done the work. So I'm not going to get involved for my mental health.
Right. Bridget says, I love this. I was lectured the other day about why I should not have the vaccine and how we're all going to die in 3 years. I thought, well, if I don't, I'll be stuck here with all these anti-vaxxers. No thanks. I was added to a group. I don't know how. Sometimes people can add you to a WhatsApp group without your permission.
Oh, no.
Yes.
It's someone in my contact. It's not a complete stranger. But they added me to this WhatsApp group of like the most bizarre anti-vax conspiracy bullshit I've ever seen in my life. And, like they've got a brain, like a human brain, and they're cutting the brain up and they're saying, well, look, if you look inside the brain, this is all because of the vaccine. Just some nonsense, first-rate nonsense.
There's no way of them knowing, honestly.
That stuff is as bad because, of course, Leigh-Ann's correct. We don't know because we haven't done the longitudinal tests yet. Nobody in vaccinology, nobody in immunology knows the answers to this, but they had to develop something for this bloody disease. The fact that they managed to get a whole bunch of these pharmaceutical companies managed to race to the finish as quickly as they did is miraculous. And of course, they're going to be side effects and after effects in a small percentage of the population, like with anything. Some people are allergic to grass. Some people are allergic to dairy. Some people have a bad reaction to certain plants, for heaven's sake.
Oh, it's like it's like these people who are petrified of blood clots from the vaccine. In the meantime, they've been on the pill for the last 15 years, which has a much higher rate of causing blood clots.
Or they weigh 180 kilograms and they're worried about the vaccine poisoning their system. I'm like, come on. What are you talking about? Miss Obesity 2021.
We've cracked the human genome, largely speaking. You are not going to have a third arm in 2 generations. Like, don't worry about it. There's people that are smarter than you will ever be at the Large Hadron Collider. With deep learning, we're fine. Like for goodness sake.
The machines might outperform us at some very, very near point in the future. In fact, they say, people like Kurzweil and Diamandis and those futurists, they say, oh, it's just around the corner. Singularity, 2023, in fact. So what? Wow. 2 more years, and computers will outperform human beings.
If there's something that gets the job done better than me, then I'm fine with it.
No, well,
I much prefer accuracy. Thanks.
Yeah, there's some very funny comments here. The coronavirus is nature's way. This is according to Errol. Coronavirus is nature's way of balancing the world's overpopulated population, since there won't be a third world war. That would be nice, Errol, if it was true. But we've only lost it's under 70,000 people in South Africa. So that's not exactly going to change the population dynamics. I don't know what you're talking about. Eleutheria says there's a setting you can change so you don't get added to groups. I've got to find that setting. I've got to switch that on. What a stupid group that was. Jesus, they were stupid. Tanya says, go to your WhatsApp settings. You can turn that off so you can't be added. You will still get the invite, but you can decline it. Okay, that's good. That's very good. Dexter Fox says, My dad has it bad at the moment with anti-vax. He says it's anti-Christ, and when you get it, you'll have the mark of Satan.
Oh no. Yeah, I thought about it in the shower this morning, actually, that whole book of Revelations and the mark of the beast and being, having a chip inserted under your skin. And then I've seen these videos, and I obviously don't know if they're true or not.
That's right, Leigh-Ann. Spread my name.
Where they're using these PET scanners, like scanners that you go over microchips with if you found a pet that's been lost, and using those on their arms, and it comes up with some barcode. I don't know.
No, well.
And again, so what? I'm already counted by the government. I'm already monitored by the government. They know where I live. They know what I buy. They know what political party I voted for.
And they still can't stop a riot. They can't stop an actual threat to the state. So how dangerous are they? I love the way these people who are like massively conspiratorial about the government. And don't get me wrong, I hate the state, right? I think the state is a terrible, terrible instrument to do usually the most useless and terrible things. But I'm very realistic. These people who say, well, it's all about Bill Gates and the New World Order and control and blah, blah, blah. But show me a government anywhere in the world who managed coronavirus properly. And that is proof alone. They had no idea of what to do when this thing started. That should be all the proof you need, is that all of them were like falling over themselves to do the wrong thing. And every time you look to government and people go, well, the government is watching you. The government is this, the government is that. And yet they are so fucking bad at it. Right? Like
they can't even organize soccer tournaments properly. You think they're going to spread a disease across the world?
Either these guys are super genius, brilliant, most manipulative, hive brain, unbelievably, incredibly talented Machiavellian monsters who can do anything at any time. They can press a button and, like switch off your suburb and screw with your world and get into your head and track you with a microchip or zero in the satellites on your movements in your own garden. Either they're that brilliant and the state is just incredibly powerful beyond belief, or they are bumbling, stumbling fools. But they can't be both. And their behavior would indicate to me, especially in a country like ours where you can see that government don't know what the hell they're doing on a daily basis. That should be all the proof you need that there is no massive, of course they're going to try and accumulate power, and they are dangerous in the long run, but they're not very good at being dangerous even. So can we stop with the conspiracies for a minute? All right, a couple of things in the news. We've just got to look at some news stories quickly that are happening all around us. So there's quite a lot going on. Where should we begin? What is today? It's the 19th already.
It's basically December.
It's basically December. Right?
Summer's here. Yeah.
This is insanity. So, all right, Boris Johnson has reversed his plan to skip quarantine after COVID-19 exposure. This is for him personally. Again, you talk about how dumb governments are and the people in governments. So Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Finance Minister Rishi Sunak will both be self-isolating in line with national guidance, abandoning heavily criticized plans to take part in a pilot scheme that would have allowed them to continue working. Now, his finance minister, or health minister rather, Sajid Javid, tested positive for COVID-19, but they've been vaccinated, and Boris had it, right? He had it in hospital. He almost died. Do you remember? So why is he isolating now?
Because he can still spread it.
No, I don't think that that's true. I don't think that there's no...
Of course it is.
Zero evidence that that's the case, Leigh-Ann. Zero evidence that that's the case. This Boris Johnson, I think he just wants another 2 weeks off work. That's what I think it is. Pure laziness. This isn't about public health. He's lazy. And maybe during these 2 weeks, he can actually get his act together and sort out his hair. Cyril Ramaphosa admitted the other day that he'd made mistakes. This is quite a big deal because government never admits that they've ever made any mistakes, let alone individual ministers, and especially not ANC ministers. They never use the word mistake. They say challenges and this kind of thing. You know what I mean? So Cyril reiterated government could have been better prepared in dealing with the recent violence and riots. He was speaking to residents in Meadowlands and Soweto on Sunday as part of a cleanup campaign. As we've said, there were mistakes here, and there were because we didn't respond in time in a way that we should have, he said.
Well, he said that in his national address as well. But and it was the first thing that the media jumped on, and it kind of irritated me a little bit because they picked up, the media did, on that one thing that was a big, "Oh, we caught you out" factor.
It is a big deal. I mean, we haven't caught you out if you admit it, but it's good that you admit that there were mistakes, because nobody believes you handled this as well as you could as a government. Nobody does, right?
But there was so much good out of his speech, and so much that made sense, and so much to show that proper action is being taken and things are being done. It's just like, why focus on the negative? It's just, that's what the media does.
I agree with you. The media have really not covered themselves in glory in any of this, but neither has Cyril. And I'm not giving either of them sympathy, frankly, at this point. Neither of them deserve it. If the media for constantly lying and looking for negatives, and they do, the mainstream media is full of lies. And Cyril for just sitting on his hands for like 24 hours while people were being threatened, businesses burnt, and looting and rioting and stupidity happening in very important places where we rely on infrastructure countrywide. The reliance is on the infrastructure of these regions. So I just think, I don't feel sorry for him like you do.
Sorry. Oh no, I don't feel sorry for him. And I was just listening to it and using my own brain instead of having the media tell me what to think or highlight what I need to take out of this whole speech. Yeah, and then the thing that they told me to highlight in my brain was that. And I was like, come on, guys. Yeah.
But please don't feel sorry for politicians. They offer to put themselves in that job. This guy is a billionaire already. He's doing it purely for his own glory and satisfaction. I don't believe for a minute that he's an altruist or that he's trying to save South Africa or he cares about you and me and all the other citizens. Politicians are all in it for themselves. I don't trust them. My starting point, my default setting is I don't trust them. Sorry.
What kind of person, you should always be skeptical of politicians, because what kind of person would take a low-paying job that is thankless? So already, if you get into politics, we should already be suspicious of you. It's what my aunt always used to tell me. It's like, just these people are in it for 5-year cycles for themselves. And I'm sorry, go and work. You know what? If you want, nobody's ever going to say anything. Go work at a bank teller, because then we won't comment on you. Don't politics if you don't want us having an opinion all the time, every day, because it's your job to make sure that everything works for us. That we need a state apparatus.
Nobody forced you to be a politician.
Exactly.
You offered because you thought you were a leader. So let's see you lead. Go on, and don't expect anything but criticism from me. I'm not going to be waving the flag for you. Sorry. Let other fools do that for you. Other people who can take up their time trying to protect your reputation. North Korea has warned young people about using slang from the South. North Korea very concerned about it. There's a country where you basically have to make sure that your dog's mate so you can have a hot meal by Friday.
You've all got to have the same haircut.
You have to have the same haircut. These people are starving. They're in absolute abject poverty. It's a disastrous regime. They spend whatever spare capital they have either on making Kim Jong-un's life more luxurious or building nuclear weapons, which they keep firing into the sea because the rockets don't work properly. And this state has the temerity to tell its citizens, we don't like the slang that you use from the south of Korea. North Korea is best Korea. So
why is the slang that the South Koreans use ending up in the ears of the North Koreans? Surely their ears are blocked from every outside input.
They try to seal it off, but here's what they said. I'll tell you what happens. First of all, if you use any of the fashion or hairstyles or music or slang, if you do any of that, you know what they do? They put you in jail, or you could even be executed. Yes, executed. This is a serious country.
Oh, my Lord.
And cultural penetration under the colorful signboard of the bourgeoisie is even more dangerous than enemies who are taking guns, this article in their newspaper in North Korea read. The North has recently sought to stamp out Korean slang. For example, a woman calling her husband oppa, which means older brother, but is often used to refer to a boyfriend. Foreign influence is seen as a threat to North Korea's communist regime and its supreme leader, Kim Jong-un, and his grip on power. He recently labeled K-pop as a vicious cancer. Look, there I agree with him.
Or one might say that's just any pop there, Kim Jong. That's not just you. Selena Gomez is enough to
K-pop. But anyone caught with large amounts of media from South Korea, the United States, or Japan now faces the death penalty.
My Lord.
Those caught watching it face prison camp for 15 years. Isn't communism just marvelous, everybody? Let's just take a second again to think about how great communism is. And for all those people who still think that socialism has some value and some merit, I'd like to refer you to our friends in Cuba, as if our North Korean example this morning isn't enough. Just how many things are happening in Cuba at the moment that give you an indication that that regime has completely failed, and yet there are still people in the Western world who will defend the Cuban regime. There are actual organizations and individuals like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Black Lives Matter, the organization in the United States, who are saying it's not the communist regime of Cuba that's the problem, it's American sanctions that are the problem. And yet, here is all the proof you need. In which direction are most of the boats going? Are they leaving from Miami, sick and tired of capitalism, ready to try some new communism? I mean, you laugh at me, but this is the truth.
It's so true.
In which direction is all the net immigration? In which direction does it take place? Because that is all you need to know. If people are willing to get on an inner tractor tire tube and paddle their way to Miami because Cuba is so absolutely shit, what does that tell you about communism for the umpteenth time? And why in North Korea are South Koreans not clamoring to get through the demilitarized zone into North Korea, the paradise of Kim Jong-un? Why is all the escaping and running and being shot in the back happening from the North trying to get into the South? If communism is so marvelous, why do we even have this argument with idiots anymore?
You know, it would be sensational. I would love it if, well, I wouldn't love it, but if Kim Jong is just sitting there and all of his sort of officials are processing everyone that goes to prison with a Samsung tablet. Wouldn't that just be amazing? Yeah, just like bring South Korea's technology to keep them out. So we'll have a Samsung tablet at the door, and you'll check in there as you check in. And by the way, drive in Kia truck.
Again, like most communist regimes, I think most of their actual paperwork is done on stone tablets with chisels because they're very advanced. We'll leave that for the moment. All right, so many things to talk about this morning, but it is time for something that I think has become a staple for many of us. Dr. Hanan Bushkin is here with "It's Going to Be Okay." That is true, right? Still now, I'm just checking. It hasn't changed. It is still going to be okay, right? After last weekend, everything we saw. Because when we had you on last week, there wasn't yet that much evidence of all of the violence, the looting, the terror that took place for so many people in KZN and parts of Gauteng. So I thought we'd check in this morning on your mental health with Dr. Hanan. And this week we delve into the psychology behind some of the looting and the repercussions for those who were involved against their will, especially, kids, and what you tell them about what's going on in the news, because kids are not stupid. They can see what's happening. So I'm going to start off, Dr. Hanan, if you don't mind, with a Facebook update that was given by Lauren. So Lauren had this to say on Facebook, and I'm just going to put it on the screen. She said, "I just watched a video clip on ENCA where a man in Durban was being interviewed about why he was looting. He said he's always followed the rules. He has never done something criminal like this before. He has been unemployed for some time, but he has never felt as free as he does now in the frenzy of looting. Is this as clear-cut as we believe?" And maybe that's a great place to start. So what do you think of all of this? And what's the mentality? What's the thought process that goes, first of all, through a looter's head, and second of all, how the rest of us feel about society and civilization around us falling to pieces?
So yeah, it's been a really tough week. You just had to turn on the TV or the radio, and every conversation to be had is about was about like, this country, falling apart and the system being broken and the looting and the stealing and what are we going to do and how are we going to do it. The thing about the mob mentality, that's the real thing. You get some really good people, just people, people that want to follow the law, but within the group mentality, with the group psychology, they just get sucked into this wave, because something really interesting happens once people are sucked into a group. A couple of things actually happen. One of the things that we call de-individuation, when people are part of the group, they experience a loss of self-awareness. When it's almost like when you're drunk and you're at the club, like suddenly who you are and what you're about just disappears, and suddenly it's about the music and it's about the vibe and it's about other people. The other thing that happens in within group mentality or group psychology is that when you're a part of the group, individuals lose their sense of individual identity. Suddenly it's not me, Hanan, the father, me, Hanan, the husband, me, Hanan, the psychologist. It's actually I take on the identity of the group. And if the group is looting, that becomes part of my identity. I get sucked into that, and that's real. Obviously, within also group mentality, emotions are very high, and we know what happens once people feel deep emotion. So people do crazy things when they're angry, and people do crazy things when they're sad, and people do crazy things when they're insecure, that later on when they're calm and in control, they go, I can't believe I actually did that. But when emotions are high, people actually just lose their part of the brain. This we call this the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is designed to actually regulate our behavior. And we know from scans that once emotions are high, the prefrontal cortex actually shuts down. There's no logical thought. Later on, when we calm down, then we kind of connect the dots and go, I can't actually believe that I did that. Also within a group mentality, there's a loss of identity, and you become anonymous. You kind of get sucked into the group. So it's not me as an individual, but I get lost in a group. So if we get punished, or I don't get punished, we all get punished, but I'm just a little drop in the ocean.
You're one cog in the huge big wheel.
Exactly.
Can you explain to me, because clearly, I mean, there's nothing that has been done by a mob that's been really good in the history of humanity. Mobs usually do tremendous amount of damage because of that loss of individuality and of personal responsibility. I mean, we prize those things in society. We always look to people who have the maximum amount of accountability as being the ones who keep civilization together. How do we get people to stop using that reptile brain that makes you feel part of a feeding frenzy, which is exactly what happens when you throw meat into a pit of crocodiles, right? I mean, that's exactly what it is. They're lizards. They lose their morality, their sense of self, their individuality, their sense of responsibility, all those things you've just detailed, because the prefrontal cortex gets short-circuited and the reptile brain takes over. Now, how do we get the reptile brain switched off again and take control of ourselves and do the right thing? Because I don't think I am exceptional. I don't think I'm special. I don't think I have any power that other people don't have. But I've never been part of a mob, a riot, a protest group. And when you were talking about the club situation earlier, when people are drunk together, I still don't feel like I've completely surrendered my individuality. Surely it's a bad thing to do that, Dr. Hanan. How do we get back from that place?
Even though the term mob it's got a negative connotation, we can do some amazing things as a mob. Think about even the cleanup that was going on. And as a mob, people just got together and started taking their identity. And that's good. That's good. When you get part of a group, it's not always bad at all. You can use it for the good. But your question was valid. How do we stop the reptilian brain from kicking in? And how do we actually function with good? Well, two things. One, you have to stop functioning on autopilot. You got to actually start being aware of the world around you and ask yourself whether what you're doing is good. But I always encourage people to be led by a common vision. Never lose track of your vision. The number one question that I ask that people don't have an answer to is, what do you want? What do you want? And it's kind of interesting because people kind of function on autopilot. And in essence, nothing really has, in its true sense, nothing really is good or bad. So if somebody says to me, I just had a whole chocolate cake. Is that good or bad? The answer is, I have no idea. What do you want? Because if the vision is to lose weight, then that was wrong. And if the vision was to enjoy every minute of your existence, then that was pretty good. So things only are good or bad depending on the vision, on the goal. So be led by a goal and a vision that's very good and pure. But for that, we need a leader. We need a common leader that will say, there's the true north. But the problem with the mob mentality, especially in a negative sense, is you're being led by a so-called leader, even though it's really an invisible one. It's a mob mentality. It's a common mob direction that is leading you towards the bad. But find a leader. And by the way, if there's nobody outside, find a common vision within you that is your true north.
Well, I mean, there are lots of questions that come out of this. The freedom of going against the laws of society, issues of desperation, frustration, need to regain some sort of power. I also think there have been a lot of people trying to make excuses for mob behavior in the last little while, which irritates me. First of all, because they don't have a mandate from that mob. Many of the people who are trying to explain this away by using arguments from inequality or arguments about poverty or arguments about what criminality really is, and are poor people genuinely ever able to be criminal? All of these people have probably never even met any one of the people in that mob of looters, and yet they jump to their defense immediately. They have some kind of cooked up political argument, ideological argument for this.
Right,
yeah.
I was people the whole weekend were asking me questions. What do we do? How do you understand this group mentality or this mob mentality? And the common thing that I hear a lot is, I don't have an issue with poor people stealing food. And I'm like, I think we've lost kind of our sense of direction.
It's so patronizing. How can you say that about poor people? Who do you think you are that you're better than them, that you can give them a different standard than you give yourself? And how full of yourself do you have to be to say that?
Completely. And to say just poor people steal, I mean, what happened now in government? What happened to the 500 billion rand? I mean, those people were not poor. So to say poor people steal, it's so stigmatizing and judgmental towards, I mean, people are good and people are bad. And some things, like sometimes we get sucked into a world that we don't actually intend on getting sucked into. But be conscious. Be conscious of what is guiding you, what's your true north.
All right, now let's talk about people who have been a little bit or a lot traumatized by what's happened this week. I know somebody who, she was sitting at the window with her kids, and there were, thousands of people walking past with traditional weapons and screaming and shouting. Some of them were drunk. Some of them were breaking stuff, setting things on fire. And she has been very seriously and genuinely traumatized by this. Her kids also have seen what's been going on. Kids pick up on things, right, Dr. Hanan? Kids know when there's something going on in the neighborhood. Kids know when there's something in the news. They've all been exposed to this coronavirus stuff for such a long time now that they're already antsy. And kids are going into themselves because they're worried that the world around them is falling apart, because the adults around them are constantly talking about how the world's falling apart. What are the long-term implications of this? And what advice do you have for people who are trying to keep sensible and sane during a particularly trying time?
Right. So, we all want, our brain really functions well when it feels in control. The moment we feel that we don't know what's coming up next, then the brain almost short circuits. It needs to find that sense of control, that 1 + 1 = 2. To all parents, I want to give you an analogy. Imagine you are sitting at the back of the plane. You're flying wherever, and there's crazy turbulence. Imagine the captain comes on the speaker and is freaking out. We're gonna die. How are you gonna feel at the back of the plane? Or imagine the captain doesn't come up on the speaker at all. You're gonna be like, well, you're gonna create monsters in your head. Are we gonna die? So you are, as parents, the captains of your children's flight. Now, the mistake that parents make, twofold. One, they don't speak up where there's turbulence happening in their children's lives, and their children create monsters in their heads. And oh my God, what's going to happen next? Are we going to get hurt? Are we going to die? Or the second thing that parents do, as the analogy of the plane, is they go, there's nothing to see. Nothing to see. Nothing to see. Don't look outside the window. You're imagining things. And in essence, what they're doing is they're gaslighting their own kids, because their kids feel it. We see it. we're not blind to what's happening around us. So to turn to your kids and go, there's nothing to see, only freaks them out even more. Obviously, depending on the age of the child and their maturity level, you would actually explain to the children what are going on. Of course, you wouldn't tell a 4-year-old, they're bad people stealing from shops. But maybe somebody that's a little bit older and a little mature that can actually understand and piece it together, you would be much more verbal and much more expressive. So explain to your kids, the worst thing that a parent, one of the bad things or the worst thing that a parent can do is not make 1 + 1 = 2 for their kids. Give your kids enough information to close the loop to make sense of their world. Now, how do you know when you haven't? When your kids come back with more questions. When your kids stop asking you questions, then you know you've closed the loop. Because let me tell you something. If you don't close the loop for your kids, Google will. Their best friend will. Their friend of friend, their friends of friends of friends, and social media and TikTok will. So you better close the loop for them so TikTok doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, Andre makes exactly that point. He says these poor kids, some parents just shove a screen in their face to cope.
Yeah, distraction. And what that does, it just kind of takes their focus away from the turbulence. But when they come back to the turbulence, it's the same questions.
Well, Edith says we don't do our kids any favors by lying to them. Honesty in terms they understand is better.
100%.
Yeah, Leigh-Ann, you wanted to say something. Sorry.
Yeah, it's I don't have kids, and I don't have many children in my family, so I often don't think about. It's not top of mind for me what's going on in their heads. But what you've described, Dr. Hanan, is very much what goes on in my own head. There's certain things that I have to close the gaps on information that's missing. Otherwise, I will develop this crazy story in my head, and it'll be 10 times worse. I judged myself for going onto TikTok and going onto the news and watching the videos of looting that were going on. And I thought, am I being sensationalist or sensationalist seeking? No, I'm not actually. I'm preventing those monstrous stories from growing in my head. I'm showing myself what the reality is. I'm saying, right, this is what's out there. Now I can deal with it mentally. It was a similar situation when I found a deceased family member, and I wasn't able to, look at them after I'd discovered their body. I'm sorry if this is really grim. But in retrospect, I wanted my cousin, who's a doctor and who did examine the body, to explain to me what he looked like, because I was creating this other huge story in my head of how awful he must have looked when he didn't, or he did, and then I could deal with it.
For sure. And Leigh-Ann, what I would say to you and the people that are watching the news is that, of course, we get sucked into that world because we want to make sense of it. We want somebody to close the loop. But the problem is, the more you watch it, the more loops open. Suddenly you went from 1 + 1 to 1 + 2 divided by 7 times whatever. And suddenly it's even more confusing. So watch as much as you need to in order to protect yourself. And then beyond that, focus your attention on things that you can control.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you have your wits about you, you can feel when you're reaching that point where you're watching too much.
Very much so.
When you've seen enough and one video starts to look like the next, that's probably a warning sign.
That's about being conscious of what you're engaging in.
So,
absolutely.
Dr. Hanan, in this situation,
we've got to wrap it up. Sorry, we're running 7. Go ahead.
Just one question quickly is, do you think, is there any evidence, and I'm not asking you to be a prognosticator here, I'm not going to hold you to this forevermore, but do you think there's any chance that we're going to move forward and people might actually think harder about having children, because now we kind of know that this is possible, right? As South Africans, I'm just talking about South Africa, is that as South Africans, we haven't really seen this since sort of 94, 97, until that sort of period in our history. Do you think people might have to, us middle-class people will think hard about having kids because of moments like this, which has been such an interesting thing for me because of kids getting traumatized? Or do you think we'll just get back to normal?
So, Mbolelo, it's a good question. I was listening to the show earlier on, and Gareth was quite right in terms of, when in the history have we ever been stable and safe? It doesn't exist. We have moments where we feel in control, but then we go through our ups and then we go through our downs, and that's life. That's the cycle of life. So to stop yourself from having kids because things are tough, well, I'm not too sure when then anybody will have kids, because stable doesn't exist as a state.
People were having kids in the middle of the Black Death in the Middle Ages. They knew that the chances are the kids would be born and die virtually a couple of days later. They still did it. Survival, man. Survival. Dr. Hanan, thank you so much. We will catch up.
Great to see you
in another week. And you can always listen to the podcasts from previous episodes. And by the way, if you have anything that you'd like us to talk to Dr. Hanan about, maybe you've got a personal situation that you'd like him to unpack and help you with, and in so doing, the rest of us can gain some useful information and knowledge, and please let us know. That's all you have to do. Gareth at cliffcentral.com. Good morning.
This week on Auto Central.
Last question comes from Megan, who's asked, I wanted to ask what the AMG line is in a normal Mercedes. So this would be almost like an A200 with the AMG badging.
Well, Megan, first off, we were talking about the 333i Alpina earlier on, which was the pre-shadow line kind of body styling, etc. And then Mercedes-Benz got into the AMG body styling. So AMG simply denotes a cosmetic upgrade. It doesn't have any engine upgrades. Catch Auto Central, SA's #1 motoring podcast, every Monday at 9 a.m.
Suffer from collectivism, collectivity, collectionitis? Do you have an obsession with objects? Are you a fanatic, a devotee, an aficionado? Cliff Central dispenses a weekly dose of collectomania. Join me as I talk to compulsive collectors. Fascinating, intriguing, possibly a little weird. Collectomania, Mondays on the Gareth Cliff Show. Brought to you by SA Gold Coin Exchange and the Scoin Shop. Yes, indeed. CliffCentral.com on this Monday morning. It's pretty chilly, I won't lie. This weekend was freezing, and apparently the coming weekend is going to be even colder.
Sorry. I can have none of that. If I haven't said it before, I worked in the ski industry. You're not cold, your jacket sucks. So that's what we always used to say on the slopes. Yeah.
All right.
In Switzerland, yeah.
Also, they say that the most boring people in the world talk about the weather, but we are in the coldest, darkest, shittiest part of winter, so I think we're allowed to talk about it. Okay, so many things happening. Let's just talk about a few things here. First of all, this is Simba. He says, even living in the US, I've had serious questions about having kids after the turmoil last year. It's something you asked Dr. Hanan just now. I mean, that's an interesting point that Simba says. Andre says, if you're that way inclined, adopt. Those kids are already part of the world and deserve the best shot they can. And they won't get that in an orphanage. So I suppose that's...
Well, that's a separate argument.
Yeah, look.
It's a different point.
No, there's never a perfect time to have kids. There's never a perfect amount of safety in society. There's never a perfect amount of opportunity. People have had children in the most difficult periods of human existence throughout history. And you know what? Sometimes those kids grow up to be exactly what the world needs. And sometimes, unfortunately, circumstances mean that it's really hard for them to have a happy and pleasant and comfortable life. But who knows? I mean, I'm not in any position to offer advice on this.
I mean, these kids born out of this era that we're facing at the moment, you never know. They might one day heal the world and make it a better place for you and for me and the entire race.
I was going to say the entire human race. There are people dying. I mean, if you care enough for the living, let's make it a better world for you and for me.
And make more living people so that they can solve our problems.
So what do you think? Because I mean, I was talking to my sister-in-law about this. She's busy homeschooling the kids again, which she hates. And I don't know any parent who's going, "Oh, this is the best thing that's ever happened. I love it." Not one. She said it's really hard, and just getting these kids to concentrate. And the one is 5, and he doesn't concentrate for more than 2 seconds. And the other one is quite studious, and he's serious, and he listens carefully, and he does the work, and he's clever. Does the work, Mbulela. He does the work.
Preach.
But she said she wonders long term what is going to happen with all these kids who haven't socialized properly at school. We brought this up a couple of times during all this lockdown, conversation. But they haven't socialized properly, haven't been around each other. They've been taught to fear other people, wear masks to protect yourself from them. You never know who could be sick. Don't touch people. Things that before were never an issue. I mean, these are not things that we thought about, 15, 20 years ago at all. And then the fact that so much has been happening through screens, which from my point of view was already part of the problem long before coronavirus came to our door, is that people were living on their screens. They were living in this digital world more than they were living in the real world. And then you've got this strange kind of education where some parents will be really good at it, other parents will be terrible at it. And they're all trying their best, I'm sure, but you can't really beat in-person learning. And one of the reasons schools mostly, by and large, have worked is because there are people who are really good at teaching who are teaching, and the others who are not that good at teaching are doing the other stuff. I don't know.
Well, pedagogy is a whole field of study. It's called sort of.
Don't bring those people into this. We've discussed Michael Jackson already.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, pedagogy. Sorry. But don't you wonder what's going to happen to that generation of kids?
Well, I do know that if I carry on watching TikTok videos of young people, I'm probably going to just get more and more irritated by them. But it's again, it's nothing different. Yeah,
because you and I are grumpy and old, and I'd venture to say Mbulelo is also grumpy and old. But what do you think the kids it's going to be like?
Well, the problem is idiots like me get into power, right? Is that I reduce everything to the pathological, whereas to educate a child, Socrates told us a long time ago, you have to educate the whole person. So it's important for children to get together because they need to get a snot clap when they cross a certain line so that their brains can develop to go, oh, there are limits, oh, there is this. Oh, other people feel pain. Oh, when I touch somebody like this, it's not okay. Oh, when I speak like this, it's too loud. But you can't, that has to be organic. If you let a bunch of children go and play in a backyard, they create their own hierarchies. They'll create little games. So and so will take, there's, the great Dr. Jane Goodall actually has done probably the best research I've ever read within this in sort of Sapiens in how we organize those hierarchies organically. As she's written some incredible stuff about baby chimpanzees.
She's been observing chimps, and I mean, if you want to know what humans are like in that brain that Dr. Hanan was talking about earlier, we're like chimps. Bonobos, right? So you could pick up a huge amount. So what does she say about socialization?
No, just how she, just something I remember reading was that even the little ones would organize themselves in hierarchy, and you could see sort of the alphas, both female and male, just organically rise to the top and they'd they'd get the best branches, they'd get the best, even the little ones, you can already see it. And children need to do this on their own. Like parents try and force, all of our sort of problems and our 3 divorces on our kids because, you try and protect them. But ultimately, once they're gone, they're going to do their own thing, but that has to be developed organically without you. Actually, you shouldn't, and they'll be fine without you, so this is so important. We need the institutions. Kids need to go back to school. They need to play football again. Most importantly, because I'm middle class, they need a snot clap from one another.
Yeah.
They
kind of, even if it's a verbal putting down, or we're not going to speak to you anymore because of what you said. That's
exactly.
sort of snot clap.
Exactly. But people like me get into power, which is the problem, is that it's all ego. It's not just pathological. It's not just educate the brain. You have to educate the whole person.
I think you've given us a very good excuse not to ever elect you to power, Mbulelo. That's what I've learned.
Yeah, we've been warned.
But the problem is you're all stupid, and you'll vote for me and Cyril again, the egotistical egomaniac. It will happen again, and it'll happen in the year 3000.
Well, we've got a little bit later on Collectomania, which is obviously everybody's favorite part of a Monday too, because we meet these interesting collectors from everywhere. And this morning's a special edition of Collectomania because we're going to be talking to someone who collects tons of things. That's Carolyn Steyn. But we're also going to be talking to Alan Demby from the South African Gold Coin Exchange and find out about something they've done together for 67 blankets. Of course, yesterday was Mandela Day. And I saw lots of activity all over social media about Mandela Day too. We'll talk about that and all the things associated with it. So we're waiting to get to Carolyn a little bit later on for 67 blankets and for Collectomania this morning, special edition. By the way, if you collect something and you want us to know about your collection, you want to talk to us about what interesting things you collect, just send me an email, gareth@cliffcentral.com, gareth@cliffcentral.com. So on my question, Carl says, what I'm really concerned about how these kids are going to get action and form proper relationships. It's going to become a problem.
Yeah. What a guy. What a dude.
Social media has already ruined that for so many people, right?
If we're already battling, can you imagine?
Right. And people are really battling. I was talking to somebody over the weekend and he was saying like he's been in a couple of relationships and he's had very happy relationships, but he wants to he kind of, half of him wants to settle down and have a wife and start a family, and the other part of him is like, God no, he's actually enjoying his life too much. And the funny thing is, like, you've got to weigh these things up and make your decision ultimately, because time's not going to stand still. So if you think you want the one more than the other, go for it. What's the worst that can happen? There's no perfect timing for these things. There's no perfect time. It's never going to be absolutely the right time to decide to start a family. It's never going to be absolutely the right time to decide to get married. You just got to make that. You just got to jump. It's like bungee. Just do it. See what happens.
Speaking of getting action, have I got a story for you? A quick one. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So a mate of mine started dating this girl. This is unbelievable stuff, by the way. Put together, dude. Put together, guys.
Okay.
Comes to me and he says, so she's got this new girlfriend has a kid with another guy. So already for me, there's no way. I said already, get away from that. I would never do it. But okay, bless you. You're a better man than me. Then he comes and tells me this incredible information. They've been seeing each other for about 2.5 months.
Yes.
Last week, he went and saw her, and you'll never guess, she had a tattoo of him on her arm. And
of the new guy, of your friend?
No, of my mate. Yeah, they've been vibing for 2.5 months.
Oh God.
Yeah. Thank you. And he can't understand when I said what you said. Oh God.
Run for the hills.
Thank you.
It's not good. That's not good.
Leigh-Ann? Crazy, eh?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I don't even know what to say.
No, I don't know what to say to that.
Just
without being too offensive, but that's a real problem there.
Well, I mean, first of all, you've got to look at the obvious thing here. She's been with him for a very short time, and she's already decided to get a permanent tattoo on her body of him.
I mean, that's a bigger commitment than marriage, because marriage might not last, but a tattoo is going to.
Yeah. Oh, I should have said. Where were you, Leigh-Ann, when I was trying to talk this lunatic off the plank? I should have just pushed him off the plank.
What's he gonna? What does he think about this?
He's a moron. I mean, he's telling he's into her, and
fine. It's lovely. It's great. She loves me.
But in my mind, I thought moron is, why are you coming to ask me? This should have ended already. Why are we talking about it? I told him you are a moron. I mean, I said in a little stronger words than that.
Hang on, you got to be so careful. If this girl is genuinely as crazy as she sounds, you got to let her down gently, man. She could go all stabbing you in your sleep crazy. You got to be very careful how you handle this, because if she's got a tattoo of you on her body after 2 months or so, can you imagine what she's going to do when you break up with her?
Unless he has like really striking features or something, and he's an interesting looking person, then there might be an excuse.
No.
But no.
No. You see, Leigh-Ann, don't.
I'm trying.
The problem, your problem, Leigh-Ann, is you're a really good person. You see, unlike me, you are a good, caring person.
What would you do if a girl came back after 2 months of being with you and had a tattoo of you on her arm? What would you do?
Me? Are you asking me? Oh my God!
Yeah.
Dead to me. You die in front of me immediately there, and we'll never see each other again. No, you're. Oh no! You die as I see that. You have ceased to live, as far as I'm concerned.
What about you, Leigh-Ann? What would you do if some guy did this to you?
I'd probably hang around a bit to see what else this person's capable of, just out of pure entertainment.
Leigh-Ann.
If this is what that person's,
Oh my God,
capable of doing, I wonder what else. I wonder how far I could push them. Oh God, no. Look, it would freak me the hell out. But I wonder if there is a responsible way you have to deal with people like this and let them down gently, because they probably, to me, it's a surefire indication that this person is not totally stable, and that they're very, very dangerously close to being obsessed, if not already obsessed. So you've got to tread carefully. I would be very gentle about the way I behaved from here on in, because this is very dangerous. I mean, Ken Sunny's saying, red flag, run. So she echoes many of our sentiments already. Hadmin says, there's only one way out of that. You have to make her break up with you.
Oh, yes.
How?
That's the other one.
How do you do that? You know?
You've just got to do something really atrocious or be disgusting every day.
But what's too far? Like cheating on them? Like just...
But it's also so passive aggressive, and it's going to hurt you in the long run. And so much effort.
Horrible. This is a very ugly situation. So what does your friend want to do? I mean, you've got a real life situation. We're all speculating about what we would do. What is he going to do?
No, look, I got a little bit heated because, you know what? I'm not an emotionally intelligent person, is what I've realized. So I've got no depth. Like, I couldn't take my mind to a place where I can understand why we're talking about it. And I was getting more and more angry as he was talking to me, because this is somebody I love. I was just getting more and more furious because I can't understand what he means about, oh no, she's nice and all of that, because I'm in the business of self-preservation in my private life. So as soon as I see that you're even a little bit off kilter in my private life, because in the working world, I have to deal with people all the time. In my private life, you are gone faster than I would never allow you to affect my private life like this. I want stable, as stable in my life, reliable people as possible. So I was furious. I said, no, I'll talk to you this week, Chief. I can't, because I was getting mad. I'm getting mad because I can't understand his point of view at all about how she's nice and this and that. Because I'm in the business of, once you've shown me what you're capable of, I know what you are, and no thank you.
Maybe he is crazy like her. And maybe they'll tick each other's boxes. You know, they'll both have this this kind of bizarre, what would you call it? Almost like
just the right amount of crazy for a relationship.
No,
the thing is, he's not.
There's a codependence they built with each other.
He's had 2 firecrackers in a row. The last time he allegedly got involved with the previous lady's friend, but that's a whole different conversation.
Okay.
But he's had 2 firecracker girlfriends in a row that are grown-ups, man. Like this thing's, it's not, I don't know what's going on in his life. He's making money
girl?
now. Sorry?
Have you met this girl?
I haven't met her. I haven't met her, no.
Okay.
But I know the other two. They were Stella,
Vince
man. Stella.
Vince says, I see he found my ex. That's what Vince says.
So it's Vince's. Vince.
Let me tell you, we've got very smart people listening to this show. Here's some practical advice you can follow from Andre. He says, baked beans, keep farting in bed. If that doesn't work, you have problems.
Yes.
Just do like really unruly things, like shit in the cat box, and just keep it going. I saw a text from someone, one of those screenshots of a text, where it's a girl messaging her sister saying, "Please come and fetch me from so and so's house." Her boyfriend, very new boyfriend. She accidentally clogged up the loo when she went to the loo, and the only way she could fix the situation was, and I thought it was quite clever, she removed the contents of the bowl and put them in the cat box. And when the boyfriend said to her, "Why did you shit in my cat box?" she said, "I didn't." And he said, "But my cat's been dead for a week." Please come fetch me.
Oh, that's hilarious. A lot of people talking about the Bluff this morning, because the Bluff is one of those neighborhoods where the men came out and they were armed and they were ready to handle anything, and no one went near the Bluff. Those people stood up for themselves. So someone says here, the Bluff, Chuck Norris's hometown. Damn straight.
Very good.
Bluff.
It's kind of given men their, the men that you were talking about, the masculinity.
Yes.
Again, I'm not talking about the whole population, but it's given if those few the opportunity to feel like to have an outlet for that adrenaline and say, "Whoa, I'm doing something important. I'm protecting my community."
And those guys have given confidence to their community. And we talk about community all the time in this country, and most of it is just absolute hot air and waffle, because a community is it's a group of people who come together for a specific purpose, and usually it's when they're threatened by something. This is the best definition community I've seen. And anybody who has a problem with those guys who came out to defend their families, how can you have a problem with people doing what people have done for generations in successful and sensible places? How could they be the problem in this situation? How could you find a reason? How twisted is your logic that they are the ones you need to have a problem with? Then I just want to go to a comment from Yanni here, who's clearly only just joined us, or he's maybe found the internet for the first time in his life. But Yanni says, build this station and get Darren Scott, Mark Pilgrim, and ENF Sasha on. Jesus.
Sasa.
Where have you been, dude? Like, what have you been doing, Yanni, for the last while, that you've just discovered us now and that those are the people you want?
And that this is called a station.
But you can find those people if you want to listen to music and go back to 2010, whenever it was you liked radio, because it's a long time ago now, Yanni. But there are those guys are still doing that. They're still doing that. It's just gone 7:25 on whatever the station is. And
birthday wishes,
this day in history. There's lots of that for you if that's what you want, Yanni. I'm not going to be rude to you. Thanks for joining us this morning, but I don't know if this is going to work for you or for me, frankly. My son's Instagram account has a random follow who sent him fan art of his face, which he liked. Then another random stranger DM'd him and said that she's going to tattoo this art of his face on her body.
Sweet
that
Jesus.
Is terrible. There are some very, very bored people.
Jesus.
It doesn't surprise me. I see this stuff happening. I see
Really?
it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We've got to be careful of this. And lots of people talking about how those men who stood up for their communities during last week's craziness, those guys are the real men. Israel says, what a name. The alpha male man's best friend, or is that dogs? Yeah. You know what you mean. Tanya says, sorry for the split messages, but I ran out of message space. I'm not sure exactly what you meant there, but Tanya, we got the drift about your son and Instagram and people tattooing his face. Very, very odd. People will tattoo pretty much anything that makes them stand out from the crowd. I've seen some horrific and horrendous tattoos, and I've seen some very good ones, and the difference is enormous.
Yeah, if we're going to talk about leaning towards the not normal mindset when it comes to tattoos, a lot of people do it because it gives them some sense of satisfaction if they're going through a hard time. It's almost like it replaces the feeling of self-harm.
Well, there's a link, obviously. That's why people get addicted to it.
And like body mutilation.
Yeah. No, there is. I'm not going to try and do amateur psychology this morning.
Yeah.
We should ask someone like Dr. Hanan about this at a future date, because there is definitely something about tattoos that attract certain people to it, and it keeps them in that space, and they get addicted to the feeling of it, and they get addicted to how it looks, and eventually they want to cover their whole body. And hey, I'm not going to give you an armchair analysis, but it's as someone who doesn't have any tattoos, I can appreciate they can look really good on the right people, and if it's done by the right artist, it can be very impressive. But have I seen some horrendous tattoos in my time, and misspellings, and someone's tried to tattoo the face of their girlfriend on their arm, but it looks like someone who's just been through Chernobyl. I mean, it's it's not always a win. And we just chalk that up to bad experiences too. Just remember, if you're going to get that done, because some people have had tattoos removed, which is apparently also a very painful and very difficult and very long and arduous process to go through.
Expensive.
Just rather don't do it at all. If you're not sure, have someone paint a picture of that person for you. Put it on your wall. We'll ask Alan and Carolyn just now if they appreciate that kind of art in collectomania, but don't get them tattooed on your skin unless you're absolutely 100% positive that you're going to be with them for a long time, or that they're the only person in the world who will ever mean anything like that.
Well, just like makeup on your face. I mean, how many decades, ladies, have we been putting eyeliner on, or guys? Yeah. So take that time and that effort and draw the tattoo on your arm every day for a few months and see how you feel about that.
Exactly. And then we can see how.
And I have a tattoo, so I'm not judging.
But there's nobody on this planet who is the most perfect person more than tattoo people now, and vegans right now. They're like very similar, As soon as you say anything about tattoos, the tattoo people go, "Oh, yesy, like, hey, geez, what are you, 1980? I mean, it doesn't make me a worse person." Hey, get the hell out of my face. I'm
not a sailor or a prisoner.
Yeah, get the hell out of my face, Paul. Take your tattoo and go sit in your lounge. Or what you want me to do? Just because I don't like tattoos? I'm scared of tattoo now. Get the hell out of here, Paul.
I'm not going to be the one 3 months from now who's had to cross out some ex-girlfriend's name on my arm like you did, douchebag.
Yeah. And also, I don't need a tattoo as well, just because you got a tattoo, Mr. Vegan yoga instructor dude who's got a Polynesian tattoo, and you're Craig from the northern suburbs of Joburg. Get the hell out of my face, Paul. We're gonna have a problem.
Some tribal thing from North America, and you've got about as much North American Indian in you as Mariah Carey does. Do me a favor.
Yeah, now we're at Woolworths buying organic mangoes, and you want to go and come tell me how spiritual you are. Get the hell out of here, Paul. Get the hell out of here.
Mulelo, it sounds like you should stop going to the Woolworths where Craig the vegan and his tattoo stands in the queue in front of you. Just avoid that Woolworths.
No, the problem is, Leigh-Ann, sometimes I go to Woolworths outside of my area, and that's where I run into these scoundrels. That's why I never leave my area where, by the way, Glenda, who was up at 5:30 this morning as I came to work, I stick with Glenda, 75, and she's always walking. Firecracker lady.
You know what? Just do whatever you want to do. But please, if you're going to if you're going to get a tattoo of someone's face on your arm 2 months into knowing them, like Bulelo's friend's new girlfriend, yes. I'm going to judge. I'm going to judge you hard, and I'm going to stay away from you. And I'm going to warn everybody else I know to stay away from you too, because you have to be a bit of a bunny boiling lunatic to get someone's face tattooed on your arm 2 months after meeting them. After meeting them. It's not going to go well.
This is why I had to walk away. Like I'm so angry with this guy. I really, if he was at my house, I'm not joking. I probably would have strangled him to the point of passing out, because what is he doing, man?
Well, listen to this. This is hilarious, right? So here are a whole lot of people with comments, and we've got to get to Collectomania, but I just want to go to some of these because they're very, very funny. Here's Tanya says, you missed the part where she did the tattoo and sent it to him, literally his face on her body, and he'd never met her. Yeah, that's her son face. That's pretty screwed up. Derek says, my brother has Brad, which is his name, tattooed on his armpit. So it's Brad Pitt.
Unbelievable.
That is great, Derek, but that joke only works once at a party, and then the same people are at the next party, and they go, not that Brad Pitt joke again. And, you can tell a joke, and it's good enough, but to have to show it every time and show people your armpit, I promise you by the second time, nobody cares anymore.
Yeah, how many people in the world are you expecting to meet?
Brad, do that one again with the armpit, because there's one out here who's new. He hasn't seen that one before. Yeah, lekker. 4 ways. Very nice.
It's not going to heal the world.
Lenise says, I don't know, but I don't want to look like I've been slapped with a wet newspaper. All right, Lenise, no need to judge. Matt says, Mike Tyson was the OG with face tattoos. Went full tribal around the eye. Yes, great. The best, Andre says, are those Chinese symbols that don't mean what the owner thinks they mean. If I were a tattoo artist, I would just do that. Mm-hmm. Where they're actually insulting to the people who have the tattoos, but they don't know. Any tribal tattoo is the most pretentious thing that you can do. Andre says, Corona's Boring says, one of my friends has a Chinese tattoo that actually means pork chow mein. See, that's great. That's excellent. Excellent. All right, very good. That's all we got time for in the discussion on tattoos, I'm pleased to say, because I don't want to get into fights with everybody who's extremely emotional about this stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about Collectomania this morning. It's something that we've been doing for weeks now. It's so much fun. We've discovered people all over the depth and breadth of this country who collect fascinating things. And this morning, in honor of Mandela Day, which was yesterday, we're going to do a special segment for you this morning of Collectomania. We're going to speak, first of all, to somebody who's no stranger to our show, and she's got her own show, and we're going to find out how that's going to. Carolyn Steyn, how are you?
I'm good, Gareth. How are you doing?
Excellent. It's nice to see you. I haven't seen you in ages, and
I know.
See a fair amount of each other. It's been horrible. When can I come and visit?
Well, we've got a wonderful setup, Gareth. We've got you've been to the garage, right?
Yeah, of course. You've got all those.
And there's a glass wall.
Yes.
And so we've got a lounge set up on the one side of the glass with the cars, but we've sort of hidden the cars. It's really quite cozy. And on this side, Doe and I can receive visitors. So you can come anytime you want. But it's like visiting someone in prison.
It is like prison, right?
It is. It is. I haven't been out of this house for a very long time. In actual fact, I did not leave home for a year. 1 year.
That's very disciplined of you, but it's not as if you've just been sitting around. You've started your own new show recently. Tell us about that.
Okay, so it's very difficult talking like this. So I'm on Hot 102.7 FM.
Right.
And it's very exciting. First of all, very sad that Classic isn't in its format as it was before, with the presenters. But it's still available on DSTV audio channel 857. But I'm very fortunate to still have the platform to play the music that I love, light classics, show tunes, wonderful movie scores. So I'm very, very, very fortunate. So every night from 7 till 10 on Hot 102.7 FM.
So you're doing it every night, huh? The show?
Every night. I've got Sundays off.
Good heavens. That's a lot of work. That's
you know about it, right?
Yeah. Oh, well done. That's very, very good.
I'm very excited.
So I don't know if you know what we do here on Collectomania, but we've been working with the guys at the South African Gold Coin Exchange and the Scoin Shop for a little while. Mm-hmm. And Alan's been on before. Let me just welcome Alan Demby here quickly, because Alan is no stranger to us either. Hey, Alan, how are you?
Hi, Gareth. How are you keeping?
Good, extremely well. We've had some amazing people on the show with all kinds of collections, and you started all of this, Alan, by telling us about how you started with the Scoin Shop and the SA Gold Coin Collection. But Carolyn, do you collect things before we get onto the blankets?
You know, Gareth, I was a big collector. I loved everything, jewelry. Alan will tell you. Hello, Alan.
Hi,
It's
Carolyn.
lovely.
How are you
It's lovely.
keeping?
I haven't seen you for years.
We have to finish that ping pong game that we played at your house.
Gareth,
Seeing that you didn't invite me back, I ended up buying a piece of art by Norman Catherine with a couple of ping pong players. So next time I play you, I'll bring the picture along.
I'm sure we've got a lovely space on our wall for the Norman Catherine.
That's good stuff.
Gareth, I loved collecting jewelry, art. Alan can tell you I love my art, but there's no space on our wall. So a lot of the stuff goes as gifts to friends, and I no longer am a jewelry collector. You know, what's the point actually? So I like to say I collect friends.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing to collect. I'm happy with that explanation. Let's just talk about the amazing stuff you've been doing for 67 blankets, which you started some time ago, and we've discussed this on the show a little bit before. You've always got wool on you. You're always busy crocheting and knitting, and you've got teams of people all over the country doing the same things. You've broken some extraordinary records, Carolyn. Boast a little bit to remind people who don't know.
Okay, we've got 4 Guinness World Records. We're talking about 67 blankets for Nelson Mandela Day. So in 2015, we broke the record for the biggest crochet blanket in the world. And I see you got it up on your screen, where for miles there were blankets for Africa, thousands of blankets made by our nitwits for Madiba. So that measured 3,377 square meters. And then we were beaten by India. And then people said, you know, you can't beat India, you know, billions of people. We've only got millions. I said, but you know, billions of people are not making blankets. So then we got everybody involved, our children, our mothers, our fathers, our aunts, our uncles, prisoners all around the country. We had 84 prisons involved in creating blankets. So we did a blanket measuring over 17,000 square meters at Drakensberg Correctional Center in the Western Cape. The wind was blowing, the rain was coming down. But you know what? We are South Africans. We rolled up our sleeves and we did it. We beat India in what we call the Wool Cup. So that was very exciting. And then again, the largest knitted blanket in the world, the longest scarf in the world, that was at the Mandela Capture site in Howick, which measured, I said, we're going to make a scarf measuring 27 kilometers. The record was held by India at 14 kilometers. Mandela spent 27 years behind bars. We're going to make a kilometer per year that he spent behind bars. So, you know, 2 weeks before this big event, which was in 2018, we had just completed that large Mandela masterpiece at Zonderwater Correctional Center, which was just magnificent. We had visuals, right? Satellite visuals. Yes, Alan Demby bought that for 67,000 rands. Thank you, Alan.
Alan, I mean, this is amazing. You guys,
so, Gareth, let me just finish my story. So we made a scarf measuring 27 kilometers. 2 weeks before the event, we had 4 kilometers of scarf. On the day, we made a scarf that measured over 29 kilometers. Go figure how long that is.
Phenomenal. You know, you could probably see that from space.
Yes, you can.
So, Alan, you guys have been involved here, and I mean, you've been supporting Carolyn, but what exactly is your involvement in 67 blankets, and how have you guys become involved with what Carolyn's been doing?
Well, Gareth, we've been promoting the Mandela medallions for the last 20 odd years. And along the way, we've just been exposed to some of these projects. A couple of years ago, as an example, I was driving home in my car, and I heard that Kirstenbosch would no longer be able to go to the Chelsea Flower Show because they didn't have sufficient funds. So the next day I got on the phone, I spoke to the guys, And the next day I flew down to Kirstenbosch and we agreed a 3-year sponsorship. And the next thing I knew, I went to the Chelsea Flower Show with the team from South Africa, and the guys won a gold medallion. It looked very much like the blanket that we've got, because they made a picture of Mandela made of rocks and proteas and so on and so forth.
Phenomenal.
And that was by pure chance that it all came about. And then by pure chance again, someone asked me if I'd like to meet the Queen. And of course, I then handed over to her a Mandela medallion, and that's in her coin collection. In fact, she's one of the biggest coin and stamp collectors in the world. So it just happened by chance. And I think a few years later...
There's the picture of you with the Queen, and there's the Mandela, the what do you call it? A portrait that they made out of rocks and things in the background at the Royal Flower Show, Chelsea. That's incredible. What a moment.
Yeah. Sorry?
That's a pretty incredible moment to have had.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. My friend, the friend of mine who was the PR guy who set it up for me, says, "So what did she do with the coin?" I said, "Like, what do you think she did with the coin?" "She put it in her bag."
We've always wondered what's in that bag, so now we know.
Yeah.
So, Carolyn,
so we had a nice chat. I told her about all the flora and fauna on Table Mountain. I was really winging it, but she, it was really a real experience. That was like really wonderful. And from collecting coins, going to Kirstenbosch, landing up at the Chelsea Flower Show, and meeting the Queen. So I think these things are all what serendipitous. And then I heard, of course, about the 67 blankets.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting to 67, so I thought I might as well see what I can do to commemorate that day. And I phoned Carolyn up, and she wouldn't see me. And I persisted, and in the end, we met in Hyde Park. I'd never been to Hyde Park before. And we got on very well, and I think you came with your sister, and we were having a real good time and speaking and talking all about music and rock. The only difference is I like rock music and Carolyn likes classical music. I know that was a question that has been posed to me, and in my answer I said they're definitely not. So I definitely don't like classical music, but we got on pretty well, and we worked on a project, and if I'm not mistaken, together with the Mint of Norway, 67 blankets, the Mint made a coin, a medallion, in the Nelson Mandela series with 67 and a quote from him. I'm sorry I don't have one to show you, but they all sold out.
Well, that's great news. No, I don't have a problem with that. That's the best kind of news. So, Carolyn, I mean, things are still steaming ahead. It's not as if you've stopped just because you've broken all these records. I see is that that cardigan or jersey that you're wearing? That's also a 67 blanket thing, right?
Yeah, isn't it lovely?
Great. I saw.
I'm wearing my blanket.
It's and you obviously, these blankets don't just get thrown away once they've been made. They get sent to places where they're really needed. And you know, in a time like this where it's so cold and everybody's thinking about winter, you've probably saved a couple of lives. Not too much to say.
Well, I think we've made a little bit of a difference. You know, obviously, you know, people need more than a blanket, but at least a blanket is something. We've just done some magnificent project, the biggest Bokke blanket in the world at Steyn City School recently, where we created blankets, thousands in green and gold. And so those blankets have been distributed mostly. I saw that yesterday on Mandela Day, our Cape Town ambassador, Sandy King, went out and distributed quite a number of blankets to a community in the Cape. And so, I always say that 67 blankets does not sleep. And we don't, because, if I take a rest, there are many other people that are out there doing the work, not just in South Africa, but, in the United States, in England, throughout Africa, through our work with Absa Bank. It's just quite extraordinary that a simple idea, a ball of wool, and a crochet hook can snowball into what many people are calling a movement for good, a movement for change in our world. So I'm very, very, very proud of it. I think it's become my calling. I used to, tread the boards from stage to stage and try and get acting gigs on television and film. And now I'm the blanket lady, and I'm very proud of it.
Well, you should be. It's terrific work. So, Alan and Carolyn, thank you both so much for joining us for the special edition of Mandela Day Collectomania, and we will see you both soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
We love you. We love you, Gareth. Thank you so much for this blanket coverage. Ha ha ha.
All right, Alan, be good. We'll check in with you again soon, and we'll have more interesting and exciting Collectomania on the way for you in not too long a time. In fact, we'll have it next week, Monday. And if you have a collection, if you collect anything really interesting, you can tell us about that. We've had unbelievably cool people on in the last while of people who collect everything from dolls to jewelry to coins to swords to guns to tequilas, whatever it is that you're interested in. Someone who collects it, let us know. Gareth@cliffcentral.com. Very, very good. So big thank you to Alan Denby, Rael's son, and then also to Carolyn Steyn, who this morning is continuing to do the great work that she has been doing for years now with 67 blankets for Mandela Day and making an enormous difference at the same time. Isn't that cool?
Very cool. And just a lot of energy and positivity. They look like two people who are fulfilling or leading a full life rather, and doing what they love. So it's really nice to see.
Well, Carl says something quite funny here. He says, I'm sure Carolyn got fired from Classic FM because she broke all the records. Very good. Very nice. All right.
Oh, gosh.
This is Monday. You're treading through.
Oh, boy.
No, this is only Monday. Imagine what we're going to feel like by Thursday if those are the kind of jokes that are coming in. Thank you, Carl. Erica says, I crochet baby blankets. I haven't done that in ages. Well, start doing it again now. Carolyn can do it.
I was just thinking about that and the movement that's being created by Caroline, and how, decades back, I think about my gran who crocheted until she just couldn't anymore because of the arthritis. But she crocheted and knitted blankets and clothing for kids. They were called the Twilight Children in those days, and it was
what was it the euphemism for? Because these days
I'm not
just orphans or something.
Yeah, and it probably, I don't know if it has any weird connotations behind it. I really haven't thought about it until today. But it was for homeless babies, babies in particular who had been born orphans.
Children. Yeah.
And she knitted like you won't believe. If she could have stayed awake 24 hours, she would have. And you just think of how little that little movement was, but huge for her, and what it could have become if you look at today with Caroline.
What she said, Carolyn has said, is that it's also really cathartic and meditative when you're doing that, because it's something that you're keeping your hands busy with and you're thinking, and it gives people a bit of a pause for thought. Most of the time we're all so busy on these devices, we don't actually get time to think. We don't get time to just relax, do something that's therapeutic, and I think it can be. So if you're one of those people who's discovered something like crocheting or knitting or whatever, then it can be a really useful way for you to keep yourself sane when things around us are as crazy as they are. So Erica says, my semi-precious stone bead collection is in storage in a Manzum Toti. I don't even want to phone and find out if it's still there.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because they burnt down a bunch of storage units as well during last week's craziness. Linton says 67 blankets have donated in excess of 70,000 handmade blankets since their inception, which is absolutely amazing. And then again, welcome, well done, rather not welcome, well done to Scoin for the recent donation of 67,000 Rand in wool. So lots of people talking about all the differences that are being made there. Very good, very, very good. This is another stupid joke from Carl. He seems to be on a roll this morning, and I'm only going to do this because I feel sorry for him. He says, Gareth, I'd like to know if you meet someone who's not called Sarah, who is the love of your life, is it still serendipity?
Oh, yuck, 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 yuck. Yuck.
I don't even know.
Dad jokes.
Full of beans there, hey? Old, what's the Santos? That's Portuguese for the saint, hey? Or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah,
So,
okay, come on.
You know, the Olympics are coming up, right? And there's always this thing with the Olympics and sex. Like, should the athletes be having sex? Should they not be having sex? Because if they do, does it affect their performance negatively? So apparently with Tokyo, they've actually set up anti-sex beds. I don't know how these work, but we need to know. Because if there's such a thing as an anti-sex bed, there are probably a number of people who could benefit from that.
So there are many ways of looking at this, but I'll take it from the angle of the anti-sex bed, if that's what you want, if that's how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
But in the village, there are the beds that have been set up for the Olympic Village rooms for accommodation. The base is made out of cardboard. You know, that special cardboard that can expand and contract, and it's all shapen and it forms furniture. Have you seen cardboard furniture? Those pieces that can fold and concertina and become different shapes.
I got you.
So the bed base is made of two sections of that cardboard, and on top sits a mattress. And there is a lot of people are saying that these are anti-sex beds because they can only take the weight of one person. But what's funny is that the weight of one person in this instance is 200 kilograms. And if you're looking at a couple of long distance runners, well, you could have an orgy. If you could have like 4 long distance runners and throw in a gymnast as well. And you could have enough fun without breaking the bed. But no, the background to it is that it's an environmental thing, because these bases can be recycled after they've been used and no longer have a use after the Olympics, which makes a lot of sense to me. Then there are some other people who are worried about if they're bed waiters, what might happen to the base of their bed. They might wake up on the floor one day.
Oh my God.
So a whole lot of weird theories going on. But, whether they're anti-sex beds or not, they're still handing out condoms and, trying to encourage more social distancing.
You have the finest physical specimens in the world, all gathered together in one city, all living in accommodation with and near each other. There's bound to be so much of that going on. And as is pointed out here by another Gareth, he says, who's going to tell them that you don't need the bed for sex? Correct.
Yes.
Exactly. These are probably the most flexible people in the world. They can do this standing without a problem.
Yeah, or give them the floor. I mean, they'll manage. It's going to be fine. People will find that they'll find a way. Trust me. I just think about all those people, like in just the best shape of their lives. They the finest physical specimens of humanity in the year 2021. They're the ones who survived, all the COVID nonsense. They're out there ready to win at various events. Just fantastic. There's no way that these guys and girls aren't going to look at each other and go, yeah, I think it's time.
No, it's an orgy. I can confirm that from a reliable source. Trust me. She says that, so the athletes are pent up often for 8-year cycles, but some for 4-year cycles. And you look like that, and then he looks like that. Come on now. No, it's an orgy. That I can confirm. It's well known at the athletics village is an orgy at the Olympics, and good for them.
So for these super athletes, beds are overrated. But for the Turkish weightlifters, how are they going to sleep?
Yeah. Athletes do come in all shapes and sizes, that's for sure.
The hammer throw, guys.
Bolelo, you're launching the new Cliff Central Sport today. Have you been talking about the Olympics at all? Because I haven't heard that much noise about it. When does it actually start?
The football starts before the opening ceremony. That's on the 21st. So that's 2 days before. The 23rd is the Olympics, and we. Is it going to be the most boring opening ceremony ever? Are they allowed to gather and dance and whatever? Yeah. So let's hope that they can make an event of that. We'll see how that goes. But football and archery will start things off on the 21st. So I haven't really been talking about it because I don't know. They're really trying to sanitize this thing from Japan. Even the articles, they aren't really giving us too much. But it's the Olympics. We're going to get into something, right? There's going to be an Algerian swimmer who's probably had to, I don't know, sell a cousin's kidney to get there. There's always an awesome story in the Olympics. So it's the greatest show on earth. As much as I love football globally, let's get going. Friday, 23rd. Let's get going, Japan.
Tell us, if you haven't subscribed already to Cliff Central Sport, why you have to do it from today.
Yes. So we are a big announcement. The studio will be upping production over the next, whether today or tomorrow, you'll definitely be seeing a new look. We're doing it. So also it's important for my ego that you like, share, subscribe, so that people think I'm a good person because I'm more popular. So you must do that.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it's about ultimately. But you know what? On a very serious note, there have been people who supported it. Remember, Gareth, when we started, I was just doing it on my laptop by myself in here. That's right. Team's growing, and we really kind of like this show does for those early birds. Is we'd like to create more content of quality, but also, especially in the time we live in, people need a mental vacation. So I'd love people to just come and hang out for 2 hours between 12 and 2 live every day on YouTube. For now, we are working on an audio based solution as well, but just come and hang out like you do with us here and have a laugh. It's not just for people who are hardcore sports fans. Just come and have a laugh and take a mental vacation, especially not just South Africans. Globally, I think we need that more than ever now. And people have been so supportive. Let's give something back as Cliff Central.
We're not going to discriminate. If you come from some horrible country, we will still let you watch and be part of the show.
Even if you're a vegan, I'll even let the vegans and the CrossFit people listen. You're more than welcome.
There we go.
So Cliff Central Sport on social media, or the podcast is the MKT Show. So yeah, look out for that. And I'm super, super grateful to everybody who supported us to this point. But we're just getting started, and it's really, really exciting for everyone.
Very good. So today is if you haven't joined today, there's no excuse not to and get stuck in there. All right. Big thanks to everybody who was on with us today. Dr. Hanan, Carolyn, Alan, everybody else who's been part of the show, and most especially to you. We will see you tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, bright and early. Have an excellent day in the company of cliffcentral.com or whoever you happen to end up around today, because frankly, during lockdown, beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And also, don't get a tattoo of the girl you met on Tinder last night, please.
Oh, what a
S'il vous plaît.
Good Lord. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you tomorrow.